What do you mean Leylah isn't real? What do you mean she's just an NPC in some simulation generated by a quantum computer? You can't be serious. No, I refuse to believe that. Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to know that the reason why I'm making this video is pure cope. Leylah is real and I refuse to believe otherwise. Of course, she's not real, she's a video game character. But you get what I mean. I refuse to accept that she is just an NPC in the story of the game, even if I have to do some crazy mental gymnastics to gaslight myself. On a more serious note, I wanted to make this video to explain what we know about the mysteries on Mars, especially the Martian quantum computer, and to share some of my thoughts and theories about the future plot development. So, fair warning, this video will contain spoilers up to the most recent chapter released on Global. The way HoYoverse presented the story of part 2 was very interesting because up until chapter 3 we thought that we were heading in one direction, and then chapter 3x came along and shattered pretty much everything we thought we knew about the story. In a good way, I'd say. But even with the shocking revelation that Mars is actually a giant quantum computer, there are still many mysteries left for us to explore. I feel like the revelation about Mars's true nature raised more questions than it provided answers. And while the concept is easy to grasp on the surface, it's a simulated world, right? Much like Elysian Realm. The Mars quantum computer is far more complex. This is a sentiment I've seen echoed across social media. People understand the basics, but when it comes to digging deeper, beyond surface level interpretations, things get a lot blurrier, leading to confusion. That's why today I'm going to do my best to explain everything we know. But be warned, it's not much. There are still way more questions than answers at this point. Not gonna lie, this reminds me of the early chapters of part 1 when we didn't know what was going on and we theorized a lot. And speaking of the thrill of experiencing a new game for the first time, this is your chance to do the same with Raid Shadow Legends. I know, it's probably a game you have heard of 1,000,000 times by now, but have you actually given it a try? There's a surprising amount of depth and strategy involved, so much that it can feel a bit overwhelming at first. But trust me, now is the perfect moment to dive in, especially with the perks available to new players like 3 powerful champions to kickstart your journey. Trust me when I say it, these champions will make your early battles way easier. Whether you're exploring the game's rich storyline, testing your might in PvP, or chilling out with some dungeon crawling, there's always something to do. I personally enjoy taking on waves of enemies and that satisfying moment when you defeat a tough boss. And hey, if you get stuck, just focus on completing quests and challenges to level up and power through. Now, here's the exciting part. If you scan the QR code on the screen or click my link in the description, you will immediately get a huge starter pack with an epic champion, Uugo, considered one of the most valuable champions in the game. Plus, if you use the promo code Monkey King, you'll receive Sun Wukong, a legendary champion who can steal buffs from all enemies before attacking. Who wouldn't want this kind of powerhouse on their team? By using my link below or scanning the QR code on the screen, reaching level 15 unlocks Epic Fayne, an epic champion who many consider even better than some legendary champions. Raid Shadow Legends is available on mobile, PC and Mac, and if you're interested, feel free to join my clan once you're in. Just hit the link below or scan the QR code on the screen to get started. Thank you Raid Shadow Legends for sponsoring this video. First, let me clarify something. The Mars we've seen all this time is a simulated world based on the history of the real Mars inside a quantum computer. I noticed some people were confused about this, but the real Mars still exists in the actual planet Mars. It's just desolated. The Martian civilization was wiped out and the only thing left of it is a giant supercomputer. Killian Coralie actually traveled to the real Mars. There they found the Dreamseeker terminal, accessed it and met Dreamseeker for the first time. After that they brought the terminal back to the moon and continued logging in to help Dreamseeker through the countless Samsaras. The Samsara we witnessed in chapters 1 to 3 was the last one and the first time they actually defeated the Wheel of Shadows in Langcha. Coincidentally, it's also the only Samsara where Senadina was present. And before you ask, remember that every time they failed the loop, Einstein erased Hylia and Coralie's memories of it. That's why they had no information about what was happening, like perception being the Wheel of Shadows or the Seven Shoes. Their memories were literally wiped because it would interfere with Dreamseeker. Vita clearly states that the system was created for Dreamseeker to clear it, so the others are there to help Entropy, not to do the job for them. Another point of confusion is the difference between the Mars quantum computer and the Dreamseeker terminal. What Hylia and Coralie brought back to the moon is not the actual Martian quantum computer. What they brought back is the Dreamseeker terminal, which can access the computer and contains, well, the Dreamseeker. So no, they didn't bring back an actual quantum computer. There are likely more terminals around that can access Mars. In Chapter 5, we even see that Tesla and Prometheus were able to replicate the technology and create a terminal on Earth. That's how Durandal entered the system, she's not on the moon with the rest of them. Now, what's the purpose of the Dreamseeker terminal? Well, we don't really know. What we do know is that it was created by the real Ajita, not the one in the simulation, and it was meant to be a terminal for someone, most likely Leylah, to access the quantum computer. Dreamseeker looks like Leylah because they were designed to be her avatar in the simulated Mars. In a note left by Ajita, we also learned that Leylah requested a male avatar, which later became P2, also known as Honkai Impact III. And while we joke around with John Honkai, let me be clear, Dreamseeker is a data life form. They don't have a gender, they appear however the person programming them wants to. The reason why they look like this is purely because they were meant to be Leylah's avatar. So while the fandom treats Entropy and Honkai as different people, they are not. They are literally the same entity with different skins. If Ajita wanted the Dreamseeker to look like a homo doll, that's exactly how they would have appeared, and it would have been awesome. While we initially learned that the system's purpose was for Leylah to access the quantum computer, it seems like this has changed somehow. In Chapter 5, Vita states that the current objective of the Dreamseeker terminal is for Entropy to clear various stages based on Mars's real historical events to trace the Curse of Shadows back to its source. That's why we went from Langcha to Langcha 100 years ago. And this is just my theory, with each new quote-unquote level, we will continue traveling back in time until we find the true source. Why does Leylah want Dreamseeker to do all of this? It's still a mystery. But based on what we know, it might be related to finding the real Senadina. Remember that Goddess Senadina said in Chapter 1 that her and Dreamseeker's times are not synchronized, meaning that she could be somewhere in the past. Also, it is fascinating that at some point Dreamseeker seems to have developed their own consciousness. Remember, they were initially created to be an avatar for Leylah, but now they appear to be functioning autonomously. Vita even mentions that she and Dreamseeker are alike, both serving as proxies for higher beings while awakening their own consciousness. And if we're here, let's correct another common misconception. Dreamseeker is not Leylah. As I said earlier, she's more like Leylah's proxy, but they are fundamentally different entities. So if you don't consider Vita to be Sa, then you shouldn't consider Dreamseeker to be Leylah either. Although we did see in Chapter 3, X and 4 that their consciousnesses are somehow intertwined. This leads me to another intriguing theory. Remember in Chapter 3, X when Dreamseeker and Vita entered the system and Dreamseeker had these visions about her and Senadina that supposedly never happened? Well, I think those aren't the Dreamseeker and Senadina we know, but rather Leylah's memories with the real Senadina from before Mars's destruction. Now that we talk about the Dreamseeker terminal, let's also address the whole quantum computer thing, and to be honest, there's not much to address since we know very little about it, but we can draw some interesting parallels between the Martian quantum computer, Project Stigma, and the Sol system from Venus. Essentially, this computer is likely Mars's final attempt to preserve their civilization while facing the cocoon of finality. It's quite similar with Venus's Sol system, where the people on Venus created a simulated world that contained backup copies of the real inhabitants of Venus. Mara, the person theorized to be behind the Sky People, is one such person. And remember what happened with the soul system? Sa stated that in the end the Honkai/Abyss found a way to infiltrate it. This raises the following question: could the Curse of Shadows be the Cocoon's method of infiltrating the quantum computer? However, that theory seems shaky since the Martian quantum computer is meant to simulate Mars's actual history, rather than provide a place for the Martians to quote-unquote live like on Venus. At this point, we still have too little information to say for sure, but what is certain is that the Curse of Shadows is somehow linked to the Cocoon of Finality. Otherwise, Kiana wouldn't have fallen asleep because of it, or at least that's what the people from Earth believe. So because of this, each party has its own goals in clearing the Samsaras created by the system and uncovering the secret behind the Curse of Shadows. Dreamseeker wants to discover the truth about her identity and find Senadina. The Earth team wants to help Kiana wake up, and Vita? God knows what she wants. We know that she has some beef with Leylah, but beyond that her goals are still a mystery. That's why it's difficult for the people from Earth to trust her, because she just appeared one day, already knowing about the system and how to operate it. She's hella sus, but the cast has no choice but to keep her around, since she's the only one who actually knows how to operate the Dreamseeker terminal. Then there's Leylah, who wants Dreamseeker to clear more stages and uncover the truth behind the Curse of Shadows because we don't know. But Dreamseeker suspects that she's searching for someone, most likely Goddess Senadina. This leads me to my next point, which is a heavily debated topic in the community. Are the characters and stories we experience in the system real? Why should we care about these characters if everything is happening inside the simulation and each time we enter we essentially start from zero, with the characters not even remembering us? First of all, the events in the system are meant to simulate real historical events from Mars, so at least from a historical perspective, they are real. Of course, the main cast is added in. For example, in the previous Samsara, Dreamseeker was inserted as a student in OSHA so that the system could justify their existence. However, this seems to only apply to Dreamseeker. Anyone else who enters the system, like Vita, Teresa, Hylia and Coralie, is just there without being fully integrated into the world. And yes, just like Dreamseeker, the rest of Mars's cast are digital lifeforms. But unlike Dreamseeker, they are not aware of it. So, does this mean that the stories we experience are less meaningful because of it? I think it comes down to personal preference. Did you find the stories in Elysian Realm meaningless because the flame chasers were just simulations? If yes, then perhaps these stories might feel meaningless to you as well. But if you enjoyed Elysian Realm and you were moved by it, I think you can also find value here. One of the key themes in ER was precisely this. Remember how Alicia was insecure about not being a real person? She kept questioning if there was any reason for May to interact with them, since once May left Elysian Realm it was like they never existed, at least in Alicia's mind. But May responded by saying that as long as her interactions in Elysian Realm moved her or left a mark in her heart, the experience was just as meaningful as anything in the real world. And we know that this is true because she never fucking shuts up about Elysian Realm. And as players, I think it's about how we resonate with the story. Did Songche's story in chapters 1 to 3 move you in any way? Did you experience a roller coaster of emotions? Well, if yes, why does it matter if the story takes place in a simulation? Those feelings were still real for you. And for those who argue that it's pointless to care or learn about the lore because each new quote-unquote level resets everything, that's simply not true. The current Samsara in chapter 5 still takes place in Langcha, but 100 years in the past. That is why the characters don't recognize us. However, the story and information we gained in chapters 1 to 3 still holds relevance. It is the same timeline, we just now experiencing the events we learned about in the previous arc firsthand. The characters' backstories remain consistent, this isn't a different Thelema, Songche or Baiji. They are the same individuals, but now we're seeing their past. While chapter 4 indeed felt different because the characters seemed to live separate lives, remember Vita's explanation in chapter 5. The Samsara in chapter 4 was constructed from junk data that was never the intended destination. Vita deliberately chose to go there to bait Leylah out. So it's not like each time we enter the system we encounter different characters. These experiences are built up upon the previous ones. For instance, learning Baiji's backstory in chapter 5 shed light on why he was so determined to save Songche 100 years later and why he was so obsessed with finding immortality. And there's even more, but I can't really talk about that without entering into chapter 6 spoilers territory, so I'll leave it for another video. Now, allow me to delve into some theories about where the future of the story might take us. What is a Dreamseeker? Well, if you recall the text from Vincent in chapter 1, we learned that in the Elysium of old, Dreamseekers were individuals with the ability to travel back in time to experience the entire history of the world. This concept or idea of Dreamseeker seems to be what the Dreamseeker system in the game is based on, as our goal is to traverse each Samsara and witness Mars's history until we find the source of the Shadow Calamity. In the same text, we learn about a Dreamseeker who glimpses at a script that cannot be remembered within a dream. He spent his remaining years traveling through countless moments in time, trying to find it again but never succeeding. During his final moments, he discovered, through a shared vision with other departed souls, that the script was a unique imprint within the vast expanse of space-time. These countless unique scripts amounted to trillions upon trillions, forming a giant entity in the crevice of space-time, the spiritual progenitor of humanity. Does that sound familiar? Yes, Adam Rouhani from part 1's finale. For the next part, I want to give a big shout out to Marty for making an insightful post on Twitter. I'll provide a simplified version here, but please check out Marty's post, link in the description. Much of the inspiration for part 1's ending and part 2 comes from a book called Dictionary of the Khazars. This book explores themes similar to dream-seeking and Adam Rouhani. It's even directly referenced by Aichan in the game. The book tells the story of the Khazar Khagnate, a mysterious civilization that vanished from history, much like the people of Mars. Through fragmented entries, the novel reveals a mystical quest, competing interpretations, and an enigmatic Khazar polemic that challenges historical truth. What's fascinating is that the book doesn't follow a linear narrative. It jumps between different moments in time. So because of that, I suspect that the events in part 2 will do something similar, where we'll explore various points in Mars's history in a non-linear fashion to uncover the truth behind the Martian people's demise. There are a lot more references and connections here between the book and the game, but again, check out Marty's post for a deeper dive. Don't forget to use my Raid Shadow Legends link in the description or scan my QR code to get insane bonuses for new players with 2 epic champions.